Good morning, everyone. We're here live in New York City at the Lifetime Athletic Sky Club. I'm Varn Schreier. I'm with Generation UCAN. I'm absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Malik, Director of Performance for the New York Knicks. Bar, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about the conversation. Looking forward to just talking shop.
Awesome.
These people, some good things to hear about.
Definitely. Talking shop is what we're going to do. Bar's going to school us over the next 30 to 40 minutes on his training and nutrition philosophies. And really, Bar, when we're talking about the athletes you work with, NBA players, we were just talking about this off camera, but these guys are really the pinnacle, right? They represent the fittest and the best athletes there are.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, they're the exemplary of the athlete. I mean, they're oversized. So the average size is 6'7", all the way up to 7'3". Their body fat's extremely low. They have an extreme also, strength, power, conditioning, reactive strength. All these different physical capabilities they have to possess to be successful, and to be that tall with wingspans that are double the size of ours. I think that's very rare, and I think that's they're an elite level of athlete, and it takes very special care and attention to kind of keep them healthy, keep them performing at a level where they be successful.
We're going to talk a lot about athletes and fueling athletes, training for athletes, but let's talk a little bit about you for a few minutes. Give the people that are watching live, and we want to thank everybody that's joining us here on Facebook Live. Let's let them get to know the man behind all the knowledge. So how did you get into this whole world of athletic performance where you started working with athletes?
I grew up in Philadelphia. I was very active as a kid. I always were outside and played many video games, maybe on weekends every so often. But I grew up very active. I grew up playing high school basketball, baseball, football. I just love the competitive nature, the physical activity of just being outside, and just kind of using just the basics of just our environment as a playground. I just enjoy it, embraced it. So early on, for me, I knew I wanted to have a job or a career in sport, because I think sport is life and movement is life, and that's just something I wanted to be a part of because it came so organically to me as a kid. I graduated. I went to school in Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia. My undergrad degree was exercise science with the track and physical therapy, because initially I wanted to be on an intervention track so that I could eventually open a practice and cater to just professional athletes. So once I completed my degree in exercise science from Westchester University, I was an intern for St. Joseph University. A mentor of mine who is currently the director of performance and performance science with the Philadelphia 76ers currently was my mentor. And I've learned early on the rigors and the structure of trying to create a basketball environment to support a coach of a very high caliber, which is Phil Martelli with the St. Joseph University Hawks. So from that moment on, in 2005, I loved being around basketball players, because I just felt like I fit into that environment. They're very different and unique. So my sole purpose from that point on was to eventually work in pro sport with basketball. However, I took a different track to get here, which was probably the best decision I could have made, because it made me more whole. I have a different philosophy about how I see performance based off of my experiences leading up to the NBA. So I left, St. Joseph's University, and I took an internship in baseball, minor league baseball, with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And they put me in the lowest level of minor league baseball, which taught me a lot about just the principles of managing resources. Because even though it's minor leagues, it's low A, which is your lowest level of professional baseball, you're still managing the resources of a major league club. So these players are drafted, they're professional, they're younger, and you have a responsibility to teach these younger athletes how to be professionals. And I was 23 at the time, so I was teaching myself also, how to be professional. So I did that for a year. I worked my way up. I worked with the Major League Baseball club, and that's when I got an opportunity to really see, what really goes into the makeup of an elite athlete. The discipline, the regimented programs that they have to follow, the attention to detail. Being inside these meetings with the general manager, the president, and seeing the team philosophy and the vision, and you being a part of that as a cog to kind of drive that to make them successful on the field, was my experiences working with the Major League Club at 24 years old. Spent 5 years with them, owning my skills on just being consistent. The games are played every day, so you play 144 games in the minor leagues, 162 in the major leagues, so there's no days off. You have to show up the same way every day, right? And you have to design a program so these guys can show up and perform and be successful from a wellness, physical, and recovery aspect, so that they can play and win games. So, after that, I joined Exos, which was formerly called Athletes Performance, as a performance coach, and that's probably was a turning point in my career because I took a position where I had to pilot and start up, a military program, which I didn't have any experience in. But working for Exos, which is the Harvard of performance centers, I think, in my opinion, was great because they have a specific philosophy about how they want to train their athletes. They have everything in their environment from psychology, research, education, performance, recovery, nutrition. So you have these 9 components all in-house in one place, and everyone is firing off the same cylinders. You're learning from other people, all these different experiences, and it's all geared to you, the athlete, to be successful. So I spent 2 years with them, and they put me on this military installation in Northern Virginia, and it literally was the size of this court, and there was no one inside this court. So, for me, the biggest question was, well, what do I do now? Because there's no one in here in this program. So I had to use all my experiences, the tools that I've gotten from baseball, I experienced it with the major league team, the minor league team, Exos, the mentorships I had with them, my own personal philosophies, and kickstart this military program in an environment that wasn't as malleable or even as functional as it would have been in a pro sport environment. And there, I had the opportunity to own my skills with program design, teaching an older athlete, how to survive and be stronger from a tactical standpoint, because obviously military operatives are tactical athletes.
No question.
They have to be prepared for anything. So trying the program for that was one I had to execute in a very, very fast and particular environment, which allowed me to, be successful here at this level, which I'll get into. And not only that, though, they had technology back then that was starting to kind of surface.
From the military, so working with the military athletes who were exposed to some technology.
So looking at heart rate variability, looking at the nervous system and how it responds to stress, looking at sleep patterns, looking at saliva, looking at different ways of how they breathe. All these different variables that we've had back then, was good for me now because it prepared me for what I had to do now here in New York. And then, I finally ended up here in 2013. I was an assistant. I worked my way up to be director of performance a couple of years ago. We instilled a culture where the guys believe in it, they buy into it. Obviously, we want to win games, but as far as our performance culture, it's one that is very strong. We focus on wellness, performance, and recovery. Nutrition is embedded in it, and I've been here and I've been enjoying it ever since.
So, with next we're talking a little bit about this before we got on camera, but season's over now, but your job isn't over. So, what does being the director of performance for an NBA team? What does that mean? What does that look like?
I can tell you right now that one of our players are upstairs, and if I wasn't sitting here, I would be upstairs. Luckily, I have an assistant who's dynamite, and he is able to cover and implement what we want to implement. But it doesn't stop. It literally does not stop. When you're a leader of an organization, you have to be very astute to that. You're on a 24-hour call no matter what. And the off season, there's a 2-week period that you could take to do whatever it is you want to do, which is this week.
This is what you want to do.
But that, for me, that 2-week period is an opportunity for me to kind of get some more sleep, obviously, catch up with some reading, do some more research, get out in the community and speak and meet individuals like yourself to kind of see what's out there, what's coming on the horizon, because we're strapped down during the season. And then kind of organize my plan moving forward for the guys to show up May 1st and we hit the ground running. But no, phone calls. I had a phone call this morning about a certain team that adopted a force plate company into their facility. I had to speak through it and say that we're just as compatible. We don't need to outsource our force plate testing. But no, it doesn't stop. And once May hits, I have to travel. I'm also the treasurer for the NBA Strength and Conditioning Association, so I have to curate the conference, the relationships with the different companies who are coming to the conference, organize the budget for AV, all the conference rooms, and all the other different things I have to prepare for May. And then I have to hit the ground running traveling. I have to go to China, Spain, probably Latvia. I'll come back to New York a few times. We have a couple of rookies here, so I'll check in and make sure they're doing okay. once June hits, it's the draft. So I'm busy all day.
You guys are working out.
Working out. We
prospects.
got 5 guys in a day. We'll see probably 60 to 80 draft prospects. And the thing about that is we have a very sophisticated testing protocol. So whether you're a second-round pick or a top 3 pick, our energy is still geared to assessing you as if you are a first-round pick.
Sure.
So that process does not change for any individual, regardless of priority of that draft level. So we have 50 to 80 draft prospects coming in June. I have to be around attentive to that. We have Summer League in July, which I have to prepare and be ready for that. Post July 15th, I'll travel to LA to meet with a bunch of guys there who live there. About 5 to 6 guys live there. I'll travel to San Francisco for a conference. I'm speaking at the technology conference. August hits, that's your other down period. So you take 2 weeks to do what you need to do and get settled in before you hit the ground running at the end of August. Guys start trickling back in. And it just
starts back up again.
It doesn't stop.
For, talking about these 2 weeks, doing some reading, perhaps connecting with some of the other teams in the city and picking their brain. I mean, in your position, how much are you always learning, always keeping on top of the newest technology? Like, I know you said maybe during the season you don't get that much of a chance, but is that kind of something that you've always kind of have that pressure to understand what's next, what's new, what can give you guys an edge?
Yeah, I don't even think it's not even pressure. It's just a matter of, I'm passionate about the field, so I don't mind doing extra research to see what's out there, what's best. And I'm also fortunate enough to be the treasurer, and I'm in New York, so people solicit things to me all the time. So I can see what's coming up, and I'm also a member of this Leaders of Performance. They have a website and have webinars and people speaking about performance and different technologies that are coming out. So I think that allows me to assess what is out there, who's doing what, and whether or not we can utilize it or not utilize it, and see what's best for our team. So for me, it's not pressure. I just feel like I want the best for our athletes, so we can win games, so they can have better careers, and take care of their families, so we can all be happy. So I don't mind going extra miles to see what's out there, whether it's webinars, podcasts, listening to a sales pitch from a new technology company, visiting a local team like New York City Football Club, going down the road to the Giants to see what they're doing. Just tapping into your network. I have friends in Europe, Arsenal, Manchester United. They're always doing research, working on different projects, so I'd like to see what they're doing. Just to make sure that we're in the right direction. Our recovery protocols are very similar. Our nutrition habits are same. Our wellness protocols are just making sure that we're not off and that we're still pushing forward and trying to lead our guys in the right way, so that I make sure I stay on top of that stuff for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about your philosophy. You spoke about the performance culture that you've implemented with the Knicks since you've been here. You just completed your 4th year.
It's my 4th season.
4th season with the team. Is there a simple way? How would you describe sort of your overall philosophy on performance? And certainly we'll dive into both the training and nutrition component. But how do you describe?
I think it's a pretty robust system. We try to build the whole person. That requires a talented, committed group of young individuals like myself and our director of rehab. We have 2 assistant player development coaches. We have a mental skills coach. We have a life coach. So our philosophy is trying to develop the entire athlete to make him strong, both physically, mentally resilient, who can also technically and tactically perform in a way that the coach feels that he needs him on the court. So it's a very, very integrated, holistic way of trying to develop an athlete that's holistic.
You spoke, about your experience working with the military, certainly some of the technology you were exposed to. What else do you feel like that taught you, in terms of contributing to your overall philosophy, that experience of basically building that military tactical program from the ground up?
I think, the biggest thing that we probably overlook is recovery. We push. And those military operatives, they push themselves way farther than any of us thought that we probably could go. When I saw it, it's life or death. So they have to do that.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right? So we can live a safe life. They have to commit themselves to doing that. They sign it. They sign a declaration. That's why they're there. They have to push themselves way beyond we can. I think the recovery piece. I don't think we realize, how important it is that we allow our tissues, our nervous system, to recover, so that we can get up and do the exact same thing that we did the day before when we had success. I think the more that we can kind of emphasize, sleeping the right way, using certain modalities or tools that allow me to globally recover, but also from a nutrition aspect to also recover both from a health and wellness standpoint. I think that recovery is probably the biggest piece that I've learned that we have to monitor so that these guys can perform at a level that they have success and they can repeat it and reproduce it day in and day out. Because the best teams that can do that are the best teams that have the most success.
You mentioned the health and wellness component, multiple times in the time we've been speaking so far. Is there ever, from an athletic standpoint, especially the high level of athletics that you're involved in, certainly in a lot of cases, people might think performance is paramount. I mean, how do you guys kind of balance that drive to always, be performing at the top with that kind of need to be like, we need to keep these guys healthy, like we're trying to build healthy athletes with long careers? Does that ever conflict?
Yeah, I mean, it does, because, we have every athlete is an individual, so there has to be an individual approach, to how we kind of structure their day. So, veterans, they may not need to do as much on the court, prior to practice or a game because of the years they've had playing in the NBA, the wear and tear, the injury history, how much volume or how much workload they've experienced the week up to that particular day, which we monitor and measure, compared to a rookie who doesn't have many years of training, who needs to do extra court work, who needs to do extra work after practice. And you're always trying to balance those two entities on a day-to-day level, at a very granular level. So the best way to kind of capture that and to push the envelope just enough to get to that line, but not go over it, so that we can kind of adapt and overreach but recover at the same time. You have to set up strategies. So you have to organize the day in a way that they can both be successful at what it is they need to be successful at, which is a practice or a game. They come into the facility. You want to make sure you have breakfast or some type of bar, some type of shake individualized ready for that particular individual, right? From there, they're guided into the weight room or the training room to do their specific corrective exercises, soft tissue work, mobility work, whatever it is that they need to work from a weakness standpoint, they have to go through. From there, if there's a court session with our coaching staff, they have to be there. If there's a weightlifting session with me, they have to be there. And they'll flip-flop depending on what the schedule determines for the day based on our entire program, which is designed by our head coach. We have to kind of manage, okay, who's lifting, who's doing conditioning, who's doing core work. So we know that ahead of time, so we can prepare our gels, our foods, our different types of, massage therapy, modalities and different ways to get these guys activated or actively warm up. We can prepare and design these particular smaller blocks of training to get them on the court in a way that allows them to kind of toe that line at any part of the day. And when our veterans come in, it's the same process. They may come a little bit later, but we still want to have the breakfast and everything ready for them. They still have to do the same soft tissue work, the different weightlifting routines they have to do individually. They're going to go out on the court, but they'll spend time in each area based on the theme of the day, whether it's a hot or moderate or light, to be able to get to a practice successfully and get what they need to get out there and recover and do it again the next day. So you're just always trying to manage two separate tracks of development. Your veterans and your rookies. It just takes everyone involved to prepare ahead of time with a plan. And you have to modify it and change it as you go based on the response to training and what they've done within that week from a workload and volume standpoint.
Perhaps to the novice or somebody that isn't so exposed to this, you might think for basketball players, like the training is playing basketball, right? It's you're working out, it's exercise. That's how you hone your skills. Obviously, what you're describing is very different from what I just said. How much non-basketball specific training are you putting guys through in season?
It's people say, or my colleagues around the league say, oh man, it's hard to get these strength training sessions in, or it's hard to get the extra conditioning in, because sometimes you may have back-to-backs, you may have 3 games in 4 nights, you might have 5 games in 7 nights, and it's tough. But it takes, the communication has to be very seamless with your assistant coaches and also your head coach. And, I think it has to be a vision that's kind of dropped down from our ownership and our president, as far as, we're going to put these players in positions to succeed. We have a culture where we created kind of our creed. It's 5 C's: communication, compassion, cooperation. Communication, compassion, cooperation. I can't remember the other 2, but anyways, so we have these 5 C's that we use, and everyone is held accountable, to this. Connectedness is one, and and it's consistency. So that those five that we have, and no matter what happens throughout our day, we have to make sure that we're always honoring our creed, our 5 C's. I think that takes a lot of communication, and when we have to take guys off the court, which a lot of women do off the court, then it's not about us, it's about them. So if a guy has played 40 minutes a night, or if he's averaging 35 minutes or above each game, then the amount of volume that they have to spend on the court isn't as pertinent as the recovery stuff, lifting, that these guys have to do in the back end to support that workload and to be able to have that horsepower day in and day out. It's tough, but I think it goes back to what is the values of your organization or of your particular environment. What do the staff believe in? Do you have a 5C environment? What's the vision of this team? How does health matter? Availability is the most important thing in pro sport, and how do you kind of curate that in a way that basketball has to take a back seat sometimes, and the only way you can drive that message is if you monitor and measure exactly what these players are doing day in and day out. And that is probably the forefront of sport, is that every team is monitoring what exactly these players are doing day in and day out. It's a technology aspect of it.
That technology and the access to data is something we've seen in sports, I guess, from all sides, whether it's from the performance side that you're involved with, or even the statistics that teams have now. It's really exploded. How much has that helped your job to have that quantifiable look at so many different aspects of what a player is doing?
Numbers don't lie. So if I ever have an issue, I need to bring up. If I need to bring up something that looks like a red flag for me, and I have data to support it, it makes it a lot easier to communicate that to whoever needs to know that, okay, this player's not going to practice today, or this player doesn't need to play over a certain amount of minutes because he had an injury this time and his low was this. So I think, we look at, volume, distance, distance covered, the amount of running these guys are doing, heart rate, heart rate variability, recovery stuff we look at. We quantify as much as we can, and we put this into a system that we all can look at collectively and pick out different areas that we feel like is trending in the wrong direction. We set deviations, we set thresholds, we set individual barometers that you may have experienced from an average standpoint. And once you go over your average, there's a highlight. So we know, okay, we can be proactive tomorrow because you went over 110% of your weekly average. Let's look at that more extensively. Or you're telling me you do a scale where we ask you how hard was today's session, how hard was today's practice, how hard was today's lifting routine, and we trend that. It's quantified. So for some reason, if you're giving me a number that doesn't look normal to your average, then that's a red flag for us. So being able to quantify as much information as you can efficiently will help you drive decisions and directions in real time, because it's all data.
Taking the guesswork out of it.
Taking guesswork out of it. And every day, these guys, we put these GPS tracking devices on there. They're very compliant, and they know that it is helping them stay healthy. So as long as the player knows that, okay, this information that we're gathering is not used against them, it's used for them so that they can have productivity, which will lead to longevity, which will lead to a better career, they'll buy in and they'll understand the variables that we're collecting is only used to help you and help organizations so that people can make the right decision at the right time and keep going forward.
Certainly, different players, different personalities. Maybe there's not a one-size-fits-all answer for this, but generally speaking, in your position, do guys want to know the why behind what they're doing, or are they kind of, you've built it in such a way where they trust you, you've established that trust, and they kind of say, if Bar says, this is what I should be doing, this is what I should be doing. How does that balance?
Well, I try to, before the season starts, we have like a 10-minute meeting, and it's kind of like taking them back to school for 10 minutes. So we'll get in the classroom, and I have a bare bones, slideshow, and go over every area, that we expect them to actively participate in. So our surveys, we'll go over why that's important, how you feel, your moods, your sleep, soreness, emotional resiliency, how do you feel, stuff like that. So why do we do that? I'll go over that and why it's important. I'll go over, the lifting, what I expect you to lift, how you should lift, the testing batteries that we implement. Every person goes through a preseason testing protocol. I'll go through each test very quickly and explain why we're doing this. You know, what's the importance of it? How often will we do it? What can you expect from these results? You know, I'll go over why we wear heart rate tracking devices, why we wear our sport pods. You know, why do we recover a certain way? Why do we use Cobat versus compression? You know, protein shake over chocolate milk. Just basics of just trying to educate these guys.
Yeah.
We have a classroom environment that we try to instill in the beginning of the season. What you find throughout the season, guys get tired. They get tired of hearing you. You know, and then you have to kind of switch up the language so that they continuously buy into what you're trying to sell. And what you see is that, you know, the younger guys, they're younger, so they don't know any different. They're very important to us because you're establishing their habits, right?
Yeah.
You can impact them from day one, and they can continue the same habits up until 10 years into the league. Your veterans, they're kind of like on autopilot. You know, they're like, you know, they know what they should be doing, and then they start getting around other people who they're the nutritionists of the world, they're the doctors of the world, or they're the personal trainers of the world that, you know, want just their business or just want their face so they can say that, you know, they're training X or Y player. But we just educate them as much as we can. The veterans buy into it, and we just have to continuously stay consistent. And our message has to be very specific. And I also feel that timing of a message is important for your older athlete. But the more transparent that you are, the more that you can educate them in the beginning of the season. When things start to kind of go haywire, you just draw them right back in because you already explained what to expect in the beginning of the year.
Makes sense. Want to thank everyone for joining us right now on Facebook Live. I'm Lawrence Schroeder. I'm with Generation UCAN. We've got Malik, Director of Performance for the New York Knicks. And let's talk a little bit, transition over to nutrition. Fueling basketball players is a huge challenge. You know, you guys have players on your team that are 7'3", 260 plus pounds. You have guards that are, 180 pounds.
Yeah.
Just take me through that. I mean, how does that work?
It's tough. I mean, you're like you said, you have one extreme. You have an average player who's average weighs about 250, and you have a player who may weigh like 180. Luckily for us, I work closely with a registered dietitian who individualizes a lot of our eating from blood paneling, so we know exactly what they're deficient in. We don't have to guess, and that's done 2 to 3 times per year. We do sweat analysis, so we know exactly from a hydration standpoint. The big sweaters, sodium sweaters, how much minerals and water they're losing during the practice. So from a foundation standpoint, at least we have that to go off of to kind of drive the philosophy that we believe in. But for us, is the patterning of foods. These guys probably expend over 4,000 calories a day, and it's every day. The average person probably is 200 times 10, average weight is 200 pounds, talking about 10 is 2,000, double that for NBA players, it's about 4,000, right? So you're always trying to figure out ways to get the frequency of meals in there. From a carbohydrate standpoint, average person probably has 5 grams. Basketball is probably 7 or 8 kilogram per body weight, put on body weight. So you're always just trying to, have them start out their day with just a good breakfast, a good whole grain, a good protein. We try to have a colorful plate. Try to get 5 to 6 minutes in there throughout the day with snacks to include, a protein or carb, and also shakes on the back end. So it's very tough. But our framework is one that is, the meal frequency is huge. So 5 to 6 small meals per day, right? From a water standpoint, they're heavy sweaters. So they should be drinking probably half their body weight in ounces, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So
some of these guys, this is 90, 100, 125 ounces of water a day.
Yeah. And then you go on a scale, they weigh themselves, what they lost, you divide that. So if you weigh 200 pounds, divided by 2 in ounces, if you weigh 186, that's 4 ounces lost. I mean, it's 4 pounds lost. So every ounce is a pound, so you got to replenish that. So we try to set up strategies where these guys can be successful from just a basic meal frequency standpoint, healthy variety of different foods, doing enough for recovery. So post-practice, post-games, trying a ratio of 3 to 1. We make shakes ourselves. We don't have the shakers or the RTE. We actually make them in a blender because we know exactly how much each person needs from a
That goes back to the individualized approach that you're talking about. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a challenge because it's individualized. They're all different in age, and we don't have a metabolic cart, so I don't know how much calories are burning just at rest. But I just know that the activity that we're expending is probably one where they burn 4,000 calories per day. So you got to kind of always maintain that so guys don't lose weight throughout the course of the year.
From a pre-training or pre-competition fueling standpoint, I've heard over the years basketball athletes talk about kind of that challenge of being fueled up enough, but at the same time, it's a high-intensity sport with rapid movements, and you don't want to be weighed down and bogged down. What would you say, and I kind of want to separate it into the pre-aspect and the recovery aspect, what would you say some of the biggest challenges are for an NBA athlete to fuel before competition or before the game?
It's what you just said. They're so talented, that they can get away with probably not fueling up as much as they should. So, we try to always emphasize, 2 to 4 hours before the game, have a meal. Right? Good carbohydrate, good protein, some good fats, and plenty of fluids. An hour before the game, guys don't want to feel bloated because carbohydrate obviously retains water. They feel full, they can't perform. And that is why we use our sport gels, our beans, but a big supplement that we use is obviously UCAN. And because of the nature of the game is 3 hours long, they're performing at rates that sometimes exceed 75% of their max of energy expenditure, that there has to be enough reserve from a carbohydrate standpoint that will allow them to sustain the performance in the game. And their blood glucose levels can't drop. So, a supplement like UCAN, which, keeps our blood sugars level at a certain rate. The insulin, which is one of the biggest anabolic hormones that we have, which helps us, it mobilizes fats, it blunts cortisol, and guys don't feel bloated by drinking because it's thin. There's no processed sugar in there. It has added electrolytes, and it tastes great. So being able to have something that has 30 grams of carbohydrate in there minimizes the bloating, keeps our blood insulin and glucose levels at a stabilized rate, can help recovery, mobilize fats, and it can perform day in and day out. That's what we want from a pre-game supplement, and that's why UCAN for us is our go-to.
So this one, the cranberry UCAN, is the one you guys have been using, and like Bar mentioned, it's the starch is the carbohydrate in UCAN that we call it super starch. So it's a slow release of carbohydrate that keeps your blood glucose and your energy levels very steady.
And just to give you a backstory on this.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Just so that they know that you didn't reach out to me to talk about this. So a friend of mine who I respect very well works for a different protein, does tons and tons of research, and I was over his house. I'm like, man, I can't figure out how to get these guys to take some of these gels without being hungry and thirsty immediately after they take them.
So that was an issue when they were taking the more concentrated sugars. They were feeling that hunger.
Yeah. Instant spike. So they want to be hungrier, and they will end up crashing. Like in the fourth quarter, they just feel like they're just exhausted. So I'm like, there has to be something out there. It was a couple of years ago that will allow these guys to take it. It's not that heavy, and it's backed by research. It's clean, and I can use it both for pre-training and also for training and also for recovery. It has to be something. Hey, make sure you try UCAN. It's a superstar. Did some research on it. I loved it. And we've been using it for a couple of years now. When our best players are the ones that see the most benefit because they're not heavy and they don't get that rush. They get it, they stay, and they kind of come down and recover into it. So we just like it. And if it wasn't for that conversation 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today because we believe in it and we use it.
That's really cool to hear how it came to you. And I know a lot of the different pro teams are very competitive and don't want to give up their secrets, so you got a good friend.
And this particular person is probably the top secret of RDs about what he's using, but because there isn't a conflict of interest, because we're in a basketball environment, and they're in a different sport, and we're best friends, that he felt like he could throw me.
You got good friends. So I wanted to, as we're kind of talking about the nutrition side of things, for you have a basketball background, you played in high school, for anybody in the audience who's a basketball player, like we know that the sugary sports drinks for the youth basketball player, I mean, it's just so much part of the culture. That's what's on the sideline. That's what you're drinking. Now, you just talked about sort of, some of the ill effects from a pre-competition standpoint of dumping a lot of sugar into your body. You have kind of the interest in nutrition beyond just what you're doing at the very elite level. So anything you could say to young basketball players just from a fueling standpoint, maybe particularly when it comes to sugar intake?
Yeah, for me, I have a passion for sugar and nutrition because my family obviously has my grandparents had a history of diabetes and they passed away from that. So it rings a bell for me as far as the impact of sugar and what it does to the body. I just think there's better options that we could educate our younger athletes on. At the very least, just staying hydrated with water is way better than drinking some of the other sport drinks that have high fructose corn syrup in there, tons of sugar. It's so many different other particles in there that takes away from what they should be fueling from a younger athlete standpoint. I don't think it's that effective. I think if we can educate our kids that just eat more fruits, try to eat more whole foods, lean meats, some of our brown rice, vegetables that have lots of water and different minerals and vitamins in it to keep people healthy. I think if we can create an environment where we're educating our kids on the benefits of water intake, certain fruits that have the highest levels of water in there, like your watermelons, different ways to get these kids to eat brown rice, whole grain bread, whole grain pasta. Just trying to introduce that early on so their palates can take that because that'll support them and supply them with the sugars and the carbohydrates they need in a safe way. Stay away from multivitamins right now because they're so young. But just obviously vitamins and minerals. Vitamins are organic; they come from plants and animals. Minerals are inorganic, water, soil, and the earth. So if we can kind of cook foods that are highly enriched with those nutrients, I think that they'll be better off in the long run. And when they get older, their palates will change and they won't be so reliant on the sugars because the sugars is what causes the insulin spike. And at such a young age, it kind of disrupt their brain patterning to kind of be in an addictive way. There's studies that show that sugar can become addictive. I think the more we can educate kids on the importance of whole foods, vegetables, fruits, water, and drinking things simple as chocolate milk, which just has just as much protein in it for a kid that something else that's in GNC has, I think that we'll be in a much better position.
One of the things you talked about both from a food and a fueling standpoint when we talk about carbohydrates is also kind of, you're helping people understand kind of the difference between, say, a sugar versus something like UCAN or say like white rice or versus something more complex like brown rice. So I guess that feeds into the whole education process that they've been talking about.
And our athletes are the same. They just can get away with it because they're just, their bodies are just like they're thermogenic. Their bodies burn. They just burn. They're burning calories all day. They've been doing that since they were 9 and 10 years old. But it's the same process as far as telling them, this is a simple sugar, this is a complex carbohydrate. What's going to fuel you better for the game? What is going to impact you or impair you for a game? And just trying to go through different ways to kind of talk through that and showing pictures, giving them booklets to take home. It's the education piece. I think that we need to really focus on at a very young age so that when they get to this level or they're playing competitively or even on the weekends, that they're able to enjoy it in a way where they're not crashing or having gastrointestinal disorders where they can't perform because it happens all the time.
Bar, in the few minutes that we have left, I just want to explore two more topics with you quickly. So from the fueling standpoint, in nutrition, we talk a lot about pre. You mentioned how important and critical recovery is for the NBA athlete. 3 games a week, 4 games a week, kind of zip it out immediately after a game to the next city. I know you've had a lot of experience living that lifestyle too. What do you focus on from a fuel intake standpoint immediately post hard training or post game?
Post game is we try to get calories in between 30 to 45 minutes post game, and we at least have a ratio of the carbohydrate to protein 3 to 1. So for every 3 grams of carbohydrate is 1 gram of protein, and we try to educate these guys that they have to do that so that we can build the resynthesis process, re-up their glycogen stores, get that process going as quickly as possible so that they can continue to eat a full meal post-game. And the struggle that we find is that we have this 30 to 45 minute window where we're flushing in, our protein, carbohydrate. We have, our antioxidants that we put inside of this protein and put inside the shakes. And then they're expected an hour and a half to eat a meal, whether it be post-game, at the arena or if it's on the plane.
Yep.
So they're expected to eat to kind of refuel for the next day because we don't have that much time before we have to be back to the facility to practice or play a game, which is at the arena. And then on top of that, we have to make sure that we're doing things like providing cherry juice, which helps with recovery. It helps with sleep. We're just trying to always educate these guys on ways to kind of push that forward so that when we do land, they're already in a state where the body can just do its natural process of the recovery and be able to play.
You're trying to avoid guys getting into a city, landing, being starving, and then,
because late night eating is an issue. So we try to blunt that by having enough, carbohydrate, enough protein, enough fiber to make them feel full. And then we'll have the cherry juice and the water on the plane, and we'll individually get that out based off of the time they played, the minutes they played, so that we can kind of stay a step ahead of that process from a nutrition standpoint before we land. So guys don't land and order, food to the room, which they can do. There's big boys.
Sure,
right?
of course. But
we try to minimize that.
try to put them in an environment where they don't feel like they need to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do that by providing the post-game shake with ratios. We order post-game food, so myself and my assistant have to, and the dietitian who does it virtually, orders our food based off of the game schedule, how many games we play within that week, and we have to coordinate with the catering company to bring the food post-game to the locker room. So they'll either eat at the locker room or they'll eat on the plane, and they'll all get cherry juice and different levels of water intake to kind of go against the sweat loss or they have in the game because we measure it post-game. And we just do that process every game, every day.
It's consistency.
Consistency.
The last one I wanted to ask you, Bar, was so a lot of people who are listening, they might think we're talking about these NBA players. We've already talked about how they're unique body types. So, people might say like, okay, these guys aren't really like me. But one thing I think is so interesting in terms of the NBA lifestyle is that idea of fueling and eating on the go, which is kind of like we were talking about the busy person working. Long hours in the city. They might not be able to relate to NBA training, but they could certainly relate to, I've got to fuel my workouts, figure out how to eat in between going from place to place. Yeah. So, what are some strategies that you could kind of apply to the general person in terms of fueling on the go that you use for your athletes?
It's the same. I think you have to, first of all, have a plan. And that may require, figuring out ways to pack healthy items, like granola, cereal, dried fruit, bags of pretzels, water bottles everywhere you go. So just having things that that are tangible that you can kind of use wherever you are, whether it's in a book bag, in a suitcase, wherever it is, you want to have that stuff available so you avoid at the end of the night late night snacking, which is what we always experience when we're traveling and working long hours. I think sleep is huge. You have to sleep the right way when you're traveling because cortisol makes you hungry. So if you're already training hard, you're working hard, adrenal fatigue, cortisol spikes up, you're always going to be hungry. And if you're hungry because of cortisol is being released and you don't have things planned and packaged, the easiest thing is fast food, sugary food, and your body just...
It's really on every corner.
It's easy. I'm not saying you can't have a bad day, but I think the more you can plan ahead of time, have healthier snacks. Try to, every meal you consume, try to have 3 to 4 meals where you have, 3 to 5 food groups. So you have dairy, you have food, you have veggie, you have poultry, or whatever you want to choose. Always have 3 to 4 in each meal, 2 to 3 with each snack, and make sure you're hydrating with at least, your body weight divided by 2, that many ounces per day, and have a good night's rest. And I think it's a plan for you to succeed and stay fueled the right way as you travel long hours like we all do as individuals here in New York City especially.
And you know, you talk from a UCAN standpoint, you know, from about keeping the blood glucose levels steady and the energy steady, and even some of the snacks you're describing and the way you're kind of pairing different foods together. It's kind of the same goal, right? To keep the blood sugar levels steady throughout the day.
Yeah. So we'll have like some guy, you know, if you want to have, you know, a bar and a banana, you know, that's just your preference and choice. You may want to have, you know, you can pair with, you know, some other fruit, or you may just want to have a bagel with almond butter and some water. So it's figuring out, you know, what exactly you can tolerate, and you know, just being consistent with, you know, what you're putting in your body, which is the biggest thing I preach for anyone that wants to, you know, get into performance from a nutritional performance standpoint, and or just everyday life fueling. It's the consistency and just making sure you're keeping a colorful, healthy plate, and plan ahead, keep it frequent, and you know, get a good night's rest, because sleep affects everything if you're traveling and working long hours.
Bar, as we wrap this up, for all the folks in the audience, really want to thank everybody for joining us live. And if you liked what Bar had to say, you have a pretty interesting venture that you're working on right now that will kind of allow people to get more advice from you, cater to the everyday person. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's called Phoenix, and it's like the rebirth. It's the rising of something. And it's a nutrition coaching app. You know, the emphasis for me is, you know, just trying to create behavior change. You know, trying to, you know, instill better habits from a nutrition standpoint. And you know, my philosophy is, why can't an everyday person have access to people who are in the field, you know, respected at a high level, experts, you know, registered dietitians, you know, top of the line strength and conditioning experts, performance coaches, things of that nature. You know, why can't the everyday person have access to that type of information? And I think if you can deliver that in an app form, that's very unique, because we are on the go. And Phoenix's concept is that, you know, you are assigned a coach, right? Which at the current moment would be someone like myself, and we are planning your day from a nutrition standpoint. You know, we're eye chatting, we're taking pictures, we're conference calling, video streaming with FaceTime. We're doing all these things, you know, in real time, so that you can have a successful way of living that doesn't necessarily have to be for sport. It's just being healthy and staying well and just feeling good about yourself, choosing the right foods, and relying on people to help you and guide you to be successful in that space. And so we're working on that arduously, and it probably will be released sometime in mid-June, early July.
Cool. And one of the things, absolutely. And the name of the app, it's Phoenix. That's Phenix. So you know, when that is available this summer, I'm sure you'll all be hearing about it. And you know, one thing you just said there, it's when we talk about performance, certainly we're talking about it, you know, from the standpoint of an NBA athlete, which is who you're most commonly working with. But performance is really, you know, what we all want throughout the day, right? Whether we're at work, whatever we're doing, we want to have the energy to perform.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I think whatever your it is, you want to do it very well. You know, whatever it is, everybody wants to do well at their job, right? So the better you feel, the better you're going to do at work, the more you're going to be respected, the more you're going to have success within that space. So performance is individualized to your particular environment. It's not just sport, it's life. You know, everybody wants to feel good about something. You only have one body, and I think the more you take care of that, the more that you'll have more productivity within that space, and we'll all just be happier. We'll probably save a lot more money in the back end, because a lot of things will go down because we'll all feel better about ourselves.
Your society.
Yes.
Well, Bart, this was awesome. Really appreciate you spending this much time with us. A lot of fun. How can the folks follow you if they want to just keep in touch with what you're doing, maybe find out more about the app? You want to shout out your Twitter handle?
Twitter, I'm Barbell 82. On Instagram, I'm at Mubarak Malik, so Mubarak Malik. I'm always, you know, posting different things that I see, people that I'm working with. You know, my stories are pretty funny from an aspect of, you know, there's no telling who may be in that story who we're talking to. But it's very positive. You know, I believe in, you know, trying to impact as many people as I can, just in general, because I wasn't always involved in sport at this level, and I'll never forget that. So if you can follow me, great. Send me messages, I'll respond, and I look forward to a big summer and continuing to work with you guys here at UCAN.
Awesome. Well, Bar, big thanks to you. Definitely give this guy a follow. Really smart, and we're really lucky to have him hanging out with us here for the last 45 minutes. So big thanks to everybody that joined us on Facebook Live. This entire thing is recorded, so you can come back. You can get your wisdom from Bar at any point just by rewatching this. So with that, we are going to sign off from New York City. I'm Varn Shriram with Generation UCAN. For Bar Malik, we want to thank everybody for joining us today, and listen to what this guy said. Implement a few of those tips in your day. Try UCAN before your workout. You're going to be really happy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.